Hey Yetis, happy Wednesday. Hope everybody's doing well on our virtual day here and enjoying the cold weather and snow, or maybe not so much in September here. But I figured with the onset of the snow and with the beginning of our students' training schedules, it would be a good opportunity for us to review the key components of the academic athlete program at Snowy Peaks. We've been really fortunate to be able to offer incredibly flexible and what we think are really quality educational experiences for our students who are high level competitors. Everything from students who have gone on to play division 1 volleyball to division 1 hockey, students who are going to be in the next Olympics, competing in skiing. We feel that we have done a great job in meeting their needs, but there's some key information that we have to agree on to be able to have that solid partnership to do what's best for your kiddo. So today we're going to talk about the key components of the academic athlete experience. I'm going to discuss the guidelines and joining the program, and then what those academic eligibility and progress monitoring components will look like this year. Obviously, before anything else, we are a school, and we are going to make sure that your child receives a quality education. Okay, so just as a reminder, we're going to be focusing heavily today on one of these, which is we want to teach the whole child, meaning that we want to support all of their goals, not just their academic goals, but who they want to become, their place in their community, and their engagement with nature, which is a big part of the academic athlete program. And then obviously individualized support. What we promise is that we will build your child the most individualized plan possible to make sure that they see success. Within this, what we know is that we run on quarters, okay? And so when we take a look at our school year, these green lines right here and right here indicate the end of each quarter. And what we know is that we kind of get our students almost full time for the first quarter. And we appreciate those of you guys who have made the decision to skip dry land in the first quarter and make sure that your students are in school for that full first quarter. Because what we know is that if your student is in school for the full first quarter, our teachers are going to learn how they learn, where their deficits are, where their strengths are, and how we can best support them when that season really ramps up over here and your student is going to be out of class more frequently. So, if your student is dry land training in the first quarter, it's just really important that they're communicating with their teachers and, utilizing the time that they're here in school as wisely as possible. Okay. But what we know is, as that ski season gears up, we're going to see less and less of your academic athlete, and we want to be prepared for when that happens. Okay, so key contacts here. I am both principal. I'm also the academic athlete program director. Anything about how the program is going to run, anything about the parameters that are going to exist within it, please contact me directly. Our counselor will make sure that the academic schedule is aligned to your students' needs, and obviously our first goal is to make sure that your student gets a diploma, and so she'll be putting together the best schedule to get the diploma with the least amount of resistance possible. We're fortunate this year that Miss Wilson is now our online school coordinator. And so if you have any questions about your students' progress, if they're working on classes online, she's going to be your go-to. Okay. So for family communication, Edgenuity, and course assignment. And then she's also going to oversee the academic eligibility in conjunction with Miss Jen. All right, so weekly grade reports to make sure that your child is eligible to keep competing and going to practice. And then as far as attendance, it's really important that you're in communication with Miss Brenda, as you guys are really great about doing. But, what are their training schedules? What's their competition schedules? If there's any changes to that training schedule so that we don't mark them unexcused absent. And then making sure that you coordinate prearranged absences whenever they're going to be in that competition season and missing school for competitions. Okay, so here's our bell schedule, right? And so let's talk a little bit through how we coordinate the bell schedule for our academic athletes. Now, when you guys all interviewed with me, if you indicated that you were going to be an academic athlete, we talked about this 0-hour period, okay? So what we do is we create a cohort for math in that 0-hour period for all of our academic athletes. Essentially, they all take math together, and they take it in a self-paced blended learning model with Joe Police. And so that takes place from 7:30 to 8:15 Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday and Friday mornings. Okay. So, they're going to be taking that 0-hour class. And what that does is it enables them to leave school early. Now, you may be sitting here saying, hey, my academic athlete doesn't have a 0-hour class. And that's because we couldn't accommodate it in the 0-hour schedule. But what we did was we made sure that your student had math either first period or third period at the beginning of their day. Okay. So many of you guys have heard me say it. The requirement that I have for your academic athlete is that they are going to have an in person, face to face experience with both their English teacher and their math teacher at an absolute minimum. So I'll go through kind of a little bit more what that schedule is going to look like. Now, if your child's part of Team Summit, what we know is that they train essentially the afternoons here on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So what we did was we coordinated our schedule to best fit that. So your child will miss seventh period, but this year they're not going to miss their sixth period class. So what we did was we separated sixth and seventh period on opposite days. So your child will never miss the sixth period class. So if your child needs a Spanish class, if you were last year, right, your child missed it 2 days a week because we ran sixth period on 4 days a week. So now this year, your child will never miss one of their elective periods. Okay, and that's been a great improvement for us this year. All right, so what does this really look like when we bear it down, right? So 0-hour math class, and then they might roll directly into, let's say, an elective course here. Second period might be physics, and then sixth hour might be Spanish, right? So they're here all day on Monday, and that's a great schedule. And then on Tuesday, we know that they're going to early release right after third period. So again, they're in math, and we made sure they were in English class in third hour, and then they're going to release and go. Which that leaves their fourth period class, which is most likely a social studies class, to be their online work. So again, they're in school for math, they're in school for one elective, they're in school for science, and they're in school for English. Okay. In addition to their 6-hour class, which might be art, Spanish, PE, and they're in school for that as well. So, really, what we're talking about is getting kids out of school by 10 a.m., 1, 2, 3 days per week, and yet they still have face-to-face contact with English, math, science, and elective teachers. So that's a great schedule that's going to accommodate, those athletes. And then again, on Wednesdays, what we know is it's virtual coursework, and we call it asynchronous work. So if they have to train, they can do their work kind of on demand, right? No different than whenever we watch Netflix, we pull up a show and we watch it on demand. Not like when we grew up where we had to be sitting in front of the TV at 8 o'clock on a Sunday to watch The Simpsons. So all of this work can be done at their time around their training schedule on Wednesdays. Hopefully that all makes sense. Okay, so again, a sample schedule. So I just showed what classes a student might have and how that works. It's exactly what I just explained. So like 0-hour math, first period might be an elective, second period science, 6th hour an elective. Then on Tuesday, that math class again, and then an English class. The only thing they'll have to do online would be that 4th period social studies class. And then 7th period, we wouldn't even put a class in there because we know that they're not going to engage in it. And if they're still in school on a Tuesday, that's where they can have study hall on their non-training days to make sure that they stay caught up. Okay. This little important note at the bottom says that all students are required to meet the graduation criteria for a Snowy Peaks diploma. This includes a minimum of 18 experiential activities and at least 10 hours of community service each year of attendance at Snowy Peaks. Now, our experiential learning opportunities this year are taking place on Wednesday, and we're going to have some conversations as a staff about how we want to make those fit this year, just because we're not comfortable saying that a student must and is mandated to meet with a group of people and go on a hike, right? Because for COVID reasons, some families may choose, hey, I don't really want to engage in that kind of scenario. And so we will likely be holding experiential learning opportunities either collectively as a group, but also allowing our students to do them with individual activities. You may have gotten an email this morning that kind of gave students a list of individual activities that they could do. Okay. All right. So as a reminder, graduation requirements for Snowy Peaks, 4 years of English, 4 years of math, 3 years of social studies, and it has to include civics, 3 years of science, 1 year of PE and health, and 2 years of electives. So if you were to be over at Summit High School, right, they only require 3 years of math, and they require 2 years of PE and health, and they require far more electives. So that's why we can reduce that schedule down a little bit, and maybe give students that 7th period off, and then in addition, we add that 0 hour, and we still have students graduate on time. And in many cases, students can graduate early if they make use of all their opportunities. The other big one here, though, is that students are still required to complete their portfolio and their personal project. So before they graduate, they'll have to spend 33 hours of their time working on their personal project. If your student is an athlete, and they want to graduate this year, they need to start working on that personal project probably in the off season so that they're not piled on during, April is nationals, and then we have a personal project due in May, right? So we need to coordinate around those big life activities. Students do have to do 10 hours of community service, and in the past we said they had to do a minimum of 5 of those hours with the school. This year, we're going to be really flexible about that, where and how they do their community service, but they'll still need to make sure they do 10 hours. I know that some of the teams actually do community service together as a ski club or a snowboard club, and we're probably going to be able to approve that this year. All right. So, all kinds of different portfolio requirements that students will have to meet. All right, so how do you get involved in this? All right, so you just have to indicate to us that you would like the academic athlete training schedule, which all of you have communicated with me, hopefully. We built a schedule specifically for and to accommodate those schedules. They must continue to meet their academic eligibility requirements. We'll talk about that in a minute. A training schedule needs to be submitted in order to start the program. So, you know, Team Summit is really good about being in communication with me. They lay out a schedule, they talk to me, they say, here's who's going training on what days. So we have that if you're with Team Summit. If you're not with Team Summit, I probably don't have it. So you do need to communicate with that to me as soon as possible. Okay. Waiver of liability must be signed in order to leave the school for training and competitions. Okay, so we're going to put that together in an agreement here, and we're going to have everybody sign it. I realize that you haven't received that yet. And then if there are any issues, it says you have to reapply to the program every year. Truly, the only time you would have to reapply is if we ran into a major hiccup or a snag where the student wasn't putting their academics first. Okay, transportation, just as a reminder, we will not be providing any transportation for academic athletes. And please remember that we are not liable for anything that occurs during transportation to and from activities. Costs, we don't absorb any of the costs for academic athletes. That is at the sole responsibility of you. And then, in addition, if you need to take a class that we don't offer here at Snowy Peaks, or you want to take a class that we don't offer here at Snowy Peaks, you would be responsible for picking up the cost of that class. So, an example of that would be I really want to take French, and Snowy Peaks doesn't offer French. But you're like, hey, I'll take that on my own in the afternoons and I'll self pace it outside of my training schedule. If you want to do that, you can. You would just pick up the cost for that class. Okay. Attendance, really, I'm not going to read all this to you, but at the core of this is this. Attendance is the number one indicator of a Snowy Peak student's success. Students who come to school all the time end up, I think we have an average GPA of a 3.6 right now for students who come to school regularly. As attendance goes down, grades typically go down. And so stay up on your schoolwork. Make sure that whenever your student can be in school, they need to be in school. We are building in time for your student to be out of school, but that makes the time that they are in school all the more important. Okay. So, and then failure to comply with those attendance policies, would really be, back into that truancy realm or disciplinary action, and then possibly removing your student from the academic athlete program. So again, it's really simple. When we've arranged the absences, boy, we wish them well. We don't even want them to think about school. We want them to focus on their skiing and snowboarding or whatever, and be successful in that realm. But in turn, we expect them to be here. Okay. What we know about academic honesty and behavior is that whenever students are doing their online work, there has been a tendency to really want to cut corners to spend more time on the mountain or to maintain eligibility and things like that. And every year we deal with somebody who decides to resort to looking up answers or copying and pasting a paper off of the internet or sharing work with another student and not turning in their own work. So just remember, academic honesty, plagiarism, cheating, that is any time a student uses an answer that does not originate in their brain. All right. So, obviously, research is a different story, but even when we research, it's how we present information that's most important. If you have any questions on this, please make sure you talk to us. But we will not tolerate cheating, plagiarism, or any other academic dishonesty. If you can't do that, we'll probably give you one strike. But if that is a pattern of behavior, you will not be allowed to participate in the academic athlete program. And then other behavior expectations is what we know is Snowy Peak students who go out into our community, whether it be for community service or whether it be to go compete in skiing or snowboarding. They're an ambassador of the Yeti Way and they're an ambassador of Snowy Peaks. And it's our expectation that they behave in accordance with what we consider to be dignity and respect. And then all other Snowy Peaks discipline policies would apply to participants while they're on their way from school grounds and engaged in academic athletic activities, right? Just as if they were in school during school hours. Okay, so grades and academic eligibility is our final topic that we're going to talk about. For students to continue progress in the academic athlete program, they have to maintain a minimum of a 2.0 in every subject. We will be running grade checks weekly. If a student falls below these minimum academic requirements, the student will either be yellow carded or red carded based upon the following information. Okay, so what you're going for here is a green card. Right? So for the student to be in green, they are passing all of their courses with a 2.0 or better. Students would be allowed to continue to train and compete in their elite programs, no road bumps whatsoever. However, if a student has fallen below a 2.0, in any of their classes, they're going to be yellow carded, right? And what we want to establish here is that right there says, including incomplete work, meaning that if the student does not turn in something and the teacher doesn't have a basis to say, hey, your student has a 2.0, they're going to get an incomplete, and that counts as a grade below a 2.0. Okay? Students will not, they will be allowed to continue to train and complete their compete in their elite programs if they're on a yellow card. Okay, and they get 1 week to bring their grade back up. We'll talk about what happens if they don't within that week. But for that time, if they're in a yellow card, they can continue to compete. However, we expect students to advocate for themselves. We teach students at this school to problem solve, so they should go to the teacher and say, hey, I see I'm yellow carded. What do I need to do? How do I get caught up? And then let's make sure we're all on the same page. Students will be informed that they are yellow carded and parents will be informed via email. We'll send you an alert that says, hey, your kid's yellow carded. You're definitely going to want to encourage them to check in on this. Also, the coach, academic advisor, or school representative has the discretion to keep the athlete from participating in training or competitions if the student has not shown any effort in trying to improve their grades. All right, red card. If a student is yellow carded and does not get caught up by the next week, they'll be red carded. We're going to run grade reports. It's looking like every Tuesday. All right, so it is a chance we might do it after school on Monday, but we're looking on late Monday or early Tuesday for grade reports, just so you know. So if a student has more than one grade below a 2.0, he or she will be red carded. So if a student fails to turn in something in 2 classes, for example, and has 2 incompletes, they're going to be red carded. Red carded athletes will remain in the program, but they will not continue to participate in training or competitions until they get caught up. Now, as I showed you the bell schedule, basically what would happen is students would not be dismissed right here on a Tuesday. They would go to their 4th-hour academic class, so they're there in person, and they would have their afternoon as a study hall to get caught up. As soon as they get rid of their red card, they can get it cleared. The teacher would sign off on it, and we'll let them start training after that. Okay. So the student continues to advocate for themselves. They need to talk to the classroom teacher or teachers to see what they need to do. Students will be required to attend all of their classes and work in the learning lab during times that they would normally be allowed to leave for training. They will be informed verbally. Parents will be informed via email that your child's been red carded. If they finish a semester with a grade below a 2.0 or having an incomplete, that might result in them being dropped from the academic athlete program the following semester. Now, that is really in the situation where a student chooses to completely disregard their academics, is what we're saying. So if a student, just chooses to not finish classes, to not pay attention, and to not prioritize their academics in this, we reserve the right to drop them from the academic athlete program. We have only had that happen probably one time, and that student even recovered from it and was able to rejoin the program because they realized that we meant it. Okay, so that's really everything that we have. Okay, so there were three big topics that we wanted to talk about. What is the schedule and the experience going to provide for your academic athlete? What are the guidelines to join the program? You know, who do you contact to join the program and things like that? And then three, how do you maintain eligibility in the program through academics? That's what we have for you. Feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Sorry for the long video, but I hope that was thorough. I will also post all of these slides so you can go through them and look at them specifically. I'll post them in the comments below on YouTube. And that's about it. Have a great day. We'll talk soon.